Another week, another
Well,
webcast. For those of you that are wondering, I am trying to make sure right off the bat, there it is, making sure that we're up and running here. You might see something different. Shane had to post it from his personal page to the Facebook group because, from what he said earlier, Facebook has decided that there will be no more third-party apps. Is that correct? That was the wording they gave you, Shane?
Well, the wording they had, yes, sir.
So no more third-party apps as the destination for links, Bob. I don't nonsense. So, but it's up. It's on there. So we'll see what happens, right? Go from there. Nancy liked it already, so we know we're running. So there we go. So we actually have let's roll here because we have somebody backstage. That's just the way this software refers to it. Offstage, backstage. What is it?
Backstage, offstage.
Backstage. We got somebody waiting anyways. How's that? We don't want to be rude. So a guest tonight that we hope is interesting. So I'm going to hand this to John real quick while I drink some more of this coffee, and he can do an introduction. So go ahead, John.
All right. So tonight we have Mr. Greg Brown from Texas, the owner of Cotswold Collectibles. He sponsors a lot of toy shows. You've probably seen him at Toylanta, the Kentuckiana Toy Show, and a few other shows. So without any further ado, let's bring Greg on in.
Hey guys.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, Greg.
I'm back.
That was smooth. That's awesome. You weren't too lonely over there, were you? Backstage, all by your lonesome?
No, I was just eating marshmallows over here in the corner, so I'm good.
I was just fixing to ask, did you enjoy the setup we had with food there for you?
There you go.
Yeah,
Right.
You've got a great green room here, guys. I love
The
it.
green room. Yeah, there you go. The green room. I forgot. They were always talking about that on Carson, right? Everybody was always in the green room, right? There you go. Nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to, for those of you that are not familiar, once upon a time, way back in the Wayback Machine, we invented this thing when we started this called 10 Hut, which was 10 questions. Each guest get 10 questions. The first 9 questions were pretty much so uniform between everybody, right? It was to be fair. And then the 10th question was always guest specific based on something that pops up. So as we were talking earlier, I was actually sitting here scribbling down a new set of 10, which I will now not use as a coaster in the future so I can continue to read them. So Mr. Brown here will be the first to get this particular set of 9, and we'll see what 10 pops up, right?
Okay.
So let's jump, right? Everybody likes to get right into things because everybody's attention span, including mine, is very short now. So we'll get right to it. How long have you been in the business, Greg?
How long have I been in the business?
Yeah.
Well, I've worked for Cotswold. I've owned the company Cotswold for 4 years, and then before that, I worked for Tina for 13 years.
Wow.
But I've been in toy collecting as far as business probably since 98 when Brian Savage had the G.I. Joe convention in San Antonio. We were hired to build some dioramas for them.
Oh,
and
nice.
ever since then, we've either been at one of Brian's shows or we're at Weekend of Heroes or Toyland or Joylanta. So I've always been going to the shows and setting up either as an independent vendor or representing Cotswold. So
nice. Cool.
Been around. Yeah.
Very cool. No, I'm not going to shift just yet. I was thinking about something different, but I'll get there later.
Okay.
What do you personally collect?
I collect 1970s G.I. Joe Adventure Team from 1970 to 76. And I collect a smattering of Real American Hero. I'm 52, so yeah, I got to enjoy G.I. Joe Adventure Team. I got to enjoy Super Joe. I got to enjoy Real American Hero. And then I shifted back to Hall of Fame and Classic Collection, then back into Vintage. So I've done that. But lately, oddly enough, I've been collecting two lines that not a lot of people are familiar with. One is from 1976's Mattel. It's called Heroes in Action. There's little figures that sit on these bases, and when you turn the base, it click, 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 click.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, it's Heroes in Action. They only went out for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They had Green Guys in the first year, and then SWAT, because SWAT was really popular back in the mid 70s, you know. And then, yeah, exactly. You had Hondo and all those other guys.
Yeah.
So I collect those. That's kind of my weird one. And then another weird one that I collect is the early 1980s Sergeant Rock and the Bad Guys from Remco.
Yes. Yep. My brother had those. Yep.
Yep. So I'm about 90% done on those. They only did them for a few years before they went to like Defenders of Freedom and American Peacekeepers or whatever those other ones were made.
Right.
But it was just kind of a weird thing. Even though we all know Sergeant Rock was World War II, the figures they all had, you know, M16s and Vietnam era gear, which was kind of a weird situation. But I don't know. I just had an affinity for those. I had those, my G.I. Joes and Leonard Corps guys, but for some reason I just gravitated towards the Sergeant Rock guys. So
Remco, that's a blast from the past. Weren't Ideal and Remco basically the same company?
No, Remco was a smaller company. They've since kind of dissolved. They were just always, generally you found the Remco stuff at like Kmart's,
right?
You know, in the smaller places. You know, you rarely ever saw their stuff because there was kind of like, you know, you had G.I. Joe, which was top tier, and then you had Leonard Corps, which to me was always middle tier. The production was pretty good, but Remco stuff was always kind of like third tier. You found Five and Dimes and stuff like that, and Kmart,
yeah, Woolworth, like that. Yeah,
yeah. The plastic was always cheaper looking, but I mean, heck, nowadays you're trying to find the stuff that they did was kind of knocking off Masters of the Universe, and those are getting kind of pricey these days.
Yes, I remember that line too. Yes, I do remember that line. That was a knockoff line Remco did. What was that one called? I remember it, but I can't.
Oh my God, they had one of them that was there was one that was Conan the Barbarian, and then they had this one guy that kind of had this white beard and stuff, and then they had the knockoff. I couldn't tell you. I know that Realm of the Underworld, I think, got the license, and they started making repros of them. But man, don't give me the line. They had like really bad Lizard Men. They were just cheesy.
Yeah.
They were just cheesy.
They even done some cheap wrestling looking figures.
They made a ton of wrestling figures.
Yep.
And they were in WWE. They were like, what is it, WCW or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Wrestling figures.
Wrestling.
That's cool.
Them fighting words there.
Boy, that's funny you mentioned that Sergeant Rock line. I remember that now. I remember my brother, who's a couple of years older than I was, and I was kind of older. I was older with the Joe stuff, Real American Hero stuff, and I remember I was getting the Joe stuff, and he'd always been Sergeant Rock, Sergeant Fury, Unknown Soldier, Weird War, all of those World War II based comics that he just used to love to read. And I remember he had a few of those figures. I hadn't thought about those suckers in 40 plus years. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. How's business so far in 2024? I know you're involved with sponsorship and some of the bigger shows all the way up into Kentucky and there in Dallas and Toylanta. How's business so far from your perspective in 2024?
It's gotten better. It was a little soft. We go through cycles, and generally March, April we're pretty strong because people are getting their tax returns back, and then oddly enough, summertime is kind of our dead spot because everybody's going on trips and stuff like that. But it's been kind of a soft for the past year. It's been kind of soft for us a little bit. Oddly enough, because we also we sell 118 scale, we sell 112 scale, but our bread and butter is 1/6. And but things like hot toys, their prices keep creeping up. I mean, you're paying $300 to $800 for a Hot Toys figure, and the people's pocketbooks they can't handle that.
Yeah.
And so they're spending. The average purchase that we get from a customer is about $50. And but I mean, it's just like you see another. I mean, if I see another Iron Man from Hot Toys, man, I'm going to throw up. It's like, God, man, can you go through so many Iron Man figures? But the pocketbook, I mean, I don't. Here in Texas, it's like we're paying about. I think it checked gas. It was like $3.19 a gallon when I went and got gas, and then food expenses are not. They're not getting any better. I mean,
Right.
We bought these protein bars, and the protein bar price stays the same, but the protein bar gets smaller.
Yeah, shrinkflation.
Yeah, so from an economic standpoint, it's been tough, but I've always believed in the thing about you got to stay 2 steps ahead of the lawnmower, and we just get creative. And but that's also the thing. That's the reason why we're working with shows, and we're trying to, we've supported Steve shows over in Kentuckiana for years. Joe Lana, which evolved into Toy Lana, we've been supporting that forever.
Yep.
We sponsor those especially with the custom figure contest and diorama contest. We really believe in that. We believe in supporting the creativity of building dioramas. It's kind of a dying hobby, building dios and building custom figures. As far as competition. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm still here. So I've lost most of my hair. So, but I'm still kicking it.
Yeah. Well, you're doing better in that department than I am too. So
I can grow it here. I just can't grow it here no more.
Yeah, well, I know my forehead decided to full frontal assault the back of my head a few years ago, and it just hit the wasteland. Yeah, I mean this is the hard thing with Ted Hunt, and I think this is why we strayed away from it, because you just hit on the next 2 questions, but I'm going to go ahead and do them anyways. That makes sense. How's the health of the hobby overall?
It's funny you asked that, because we just talked about it. I don't know if we when we were at Toylanta, we had there's a yearly thing they have at Toylanta. It's called the State of the Hobby, and that's exactly what we talked about. And basically everybody agreed. And this is no swipe at Hasbro. This is no swipe at Mattel or any of the big dogs. But I firmly believe that the future of the hobby remains with the fans, with the people who are the collectors. And I have seen personally more cool stuff coming out from creators out there. I mean, call sign, some 1/18 scale stuff. There's Delta 17 and call sign longbow and stuff like that. Hasbro's, I admire them for coming out with they I always keep on calling them Black Series, but it's, what is it called? Classified? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I watch 1/12 scale. I admire them for that, but I mean, I grew up with O-Ring, and they've, I know that they've licensed it out to Super 7, I think.
Super 7.
Yeah, and but I truly believe that it's the collectors that are coming out with the really, really cool stuff. I mean, there's that one guy, and I feel bad for saying it. He's done some he did the Colonial Viper and the Cylon Raider ships in 1/18 scale. When the originals that came out from Mattel were like teeny tiny, and he's 3D printed it. So I just firmly believe, it's great. I mean, the thing with Hasbro that's always been crazy to me is every time they get a group of people in, then they rotate a group of people out. Yeah. And then you're kind of starting fresh. And it used to be, and getting to know the guys, I've gotten to really know the guys from the 80s a lot better, like Kurt Bazigian and Greg Burnson and Frank Cornos and those guys. Those guys to me were like the last of the Mohicans as far as G.I. Joe goes.
Last of the old school, right?
Yeah, last of the old school. Everybody else, it was like they clock in, they clock out. They clock in and clock out.
Right.
And so I'm glad that those guys are alive. I'm glad people are doing books with these guys and preserving that, because I just don't think the creativity is there right now from the corporate people. I think the creativity is with the fans, and all power to them.
Yeah,
they're phenomenal.
I agree. So. Yeah, and that's we've had this discussion over and over again, and as a big comic book guy, it's the exact same story. It's, like you said, they're punching a time clock. They don't go into these. Let's face it, they don't go into these creative jobs with the goal to create, because they don't have any emotional attachment to it whatsoever. Because you know what, John and I have had this conversation a lot in a different vein, but it's like companies seem to have this business school idiocy mentality where you're supposed to hire young people and rotate them out every 24 months.
Yep.
Right. And everybody's in a state of flux. No one develops any real expertise or attachment to the job that they're doing. So I hate to say it, but they don't really care about the end product like guys you were talking about used to, because their passion in life was to go to work and create.
Yeah.
Right. And it showed in the product. It showed in the imagination. It showed in the marketing. It showed in the toy shelves. It showed in us, in our lives, and all over our living room floors. Right. I mean, it's just, that's gone. So I can really appreciate that answer greatly, because from what I'm hearing is you appreciate that because of the passion that's going into it, right? And that,
Definitely.
what we've all seen it. We've seen, and this is not a shot at anybody, but I've seen it. I've seen mediocre product that had an awful lot of passion into it that sold it, right? Because that was the added value, is the love that went into actually making it. So yeah, I can see that, and I can actually appreciate it very much. And I appreciate that answer very, very much. I think this one's a bit of a no-brainer considering where we're at, but you never know, right? You really don't ever know. What's your biggest concern about the hobby right now?
The biggest one is that we're going to age out, because I don't see the rotation in of younger collectors getting into it. I see, we talked about this again at that thing. The kids today, it's like the perfect example is, I think it's absolutely hilarious that Lego video games and Lego movies are more popular than Lego toys, which I think is absolutely ass backwards. You're going against the creativity of the model of that, what something was built on. I mean, God love my wife. She bought me I used to play paintball. I've been playing paintball. Well, I used to play paintball when I was a lot younger. And my wife, God love her, she bought me a paintball video game. I'm like, why? Why did you buy me a paintball video game? And I was like, I know I'm fat and I know I'm bald, but come on. But it's the same thinking. The creative process and the creativity stimulation for younger people, I just don't think is there. I really think that the 80s and the 90s were the last bastion of that, of getting creative with their toys. And the only yes, I know there are some people out there that you see, those kids that are at the thing, and God bless them for the parents that are bringing them to toy shows, and God bless the parents for trying to instill that creativity. But I think we're fighting a losing battle with that thinking. We went on a cruise back in February, and I remember looking at this table, and the mother and the father were both on their phones, and their kids had tablets. Nobody was interacting. They were just interacting, electronically. And it's a dynamic that's scary. And so that's the only way that I think that the collector and, we just have to, fight for it, I guess, because, you go into a toy store, Transformers, I think Transformers is kind of keeping it pretty good. I think Barbie keeps it really good, Mattel, with girls, but with boys, we're fighting for a lot of other stuff,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. It used to be, and we've had this discussion a lot. We talk about media support for a toy line. The media that we had, the cartoons, the comics, was it wasn't the end all be all of the imagination. It was intended to be the kickoff of the imagination. Then you put the toys in the kid's hand and the story continues, right? That is exactly how it was supposed to be. Now it's like, nope, the media is the end all be all. And if you buy a figure or a toy or a Lego set or whatever, it's for desk candy, right?
Right.
It's meant to complement your experience of watching, or not even so much video game properties are in the toilet too. It's almost like the attention span has shrunk so bad that that video games don't even or video game properties don't even have the appeal that they did.
Right.
So now it's I did a sermon on this once, and it pops into my head. I was born the exact same year that Sesame Street came out. And so I grew up as literally the first batch of kids that were exposed to Sesame Street. That was developed by a bunch of brainiacs and educators and everything else, that each segment lasts no longer than 30 seconds because they figured that 2.5 to 5-year-old, that was the attention span, right?
Right.
Now, generations before that, it's not like this was some magical equation that somebody, all of a sudden, we've enlightened the world. Every parent, grandparent, or nanny or anybody knew that children of that age have zero attention span. The goal was to expand that attention span, not to cater to it, right?
Right.
And that was, again, 50 some years ago. Here we are. That now it's catered to even worse because, let's face it, the video games that most people are playing on devices are, it's instant gratification, right? You ain't even getting 30 seconds out of it, right? And if you don't get your gratification within 10 seconds, you're going to toss that game and you're going to go find one you like.
Right.
So this isn't character development. This isn't imagination development. This is pure dopamine distraction, right? So I couldn't agree with you more. And I've told the guys this. I sold off my collection years ago. I raised four daughters. I sold off my collection quite a long time ago. We adopted 2 grandsons. My oldest boy, Emmett and Nancy, John's wife, are the mascots of the show. Emmett is much more entertaining and less poachery than Nancy is, but we'll talk about that later. But you know, Emmett entertains people when he's here. Emmett is not going to be with us tonight, so but that was my motivation to get into it, because I'm looking at this going, this boy has no imagination. He doesn't even have the beginnings of an imagination, right? If it's not presented to him in 16, 32, 64, 128 bits, it doesn't exist, right? And when the button goes off, it just doesn't exist anymore. It's like playing peekaboo with a 1-month-old, right? It's just like, oh, I really disappeared, you know? It's like, no, it's gone. It's just gone. It shuts off and that's it, right? It flatlines. There's nothing left. Right. And it's just like, wow. So you know what? Started buying the Joes again, which was a colossal mistake, because now I'm broke again. And I have nowhere near enough room for all of this stuff. And of course, you know, I'll get this one out of the way. You won't get this joke, but McFarlane. I got DC Multiverse McFarlane figures all over the place here. Everything got put back on shelves. He has wandered down here repeatedly this week and rearrange the shelves, right? But everything is where it belongs, right? He's got his little subgroups going on, and all of the poses are appropriate. And I mean, I'm looking at it. Owlman and Superwoman are right next to each other from the Crime Syndicate, because, you know, Bob, they had a thing going on in that, right? That flatline isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Right? The media was shut off months ago, but he still remembers that, and it's so. You're right. We as parents, grandparents, mentors, whatever it is, we really got to fight this. We have to fight this, or it's going to go away. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of stuff sitting around on shelves that no one's even going to recognize anymore, and will mean even less to them. Yeah, so I agree. We got to fight. We really got to fight. And I love the fact that I am seeing kids at toy shows. I think that's awesome.
It's an amazing thing. In fact, I always make sure that if I'm at a toy show, I'll bring some extra stuff. And because the last one we did when we did Toylanta, it was a grandpa and his son and his son's son. So it was 3 generations.
Nice.
He wanted to get this figure, and we had the ones with the cybernetic arms, like Bionic Man, $6 Million Man. And so the kid bought that, and I was like, hey, man, you can't go home with just that. And so I pulled out one of our outfit sets, and he was like, here, take this home. That kid's eyes got wide-eyed.
Nice.
So if I did my part just to keep one kid happy and keep him on that path, that's better than nobody, And unfortunately, Jason Shiremeyer from White Elephant, he was next to me, and he did the exact same thing. This kid came in with his family, and they were buying them 3 3/4-inch figures. And the kid bought 4, and Jason threw in a 5th one. He goes, "Okay, you need a bad guy. You've been buying good guys. You need a bad guy here." And so
you just bought 40 years. You see what I'm saying with that? Because that's a memory that's going to be a long, long, long time after we're not in this anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You just bought 40 years for a couple of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what needs to be happening here. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's lighten it up. I like to try to get serious in the middle and then let it fall apart from there. How's that?
We're gonna start doing arm farts or something.
If that's your answer and it's appropriate, by all means, yeah. Yeah, because some of these questions might be that bad actually. So, you and I are in the same group, same age group. These other two are much, much, much older than we are, so they may not relate to this as much. But
Green John,
yeah,
you're the age now.
Yeah, you a comic book guy or a cartoon guy?
I'm a comic book guy. I got all 155 issues of G.I. Joe, man.
Nice.
So I'm a comic book guy through and through. I watched it when it was under under Sunbow. When it switched over to Dick, I was like, by that time I'd aged out by Dick, but I always, for me, canon was always in the comic books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love the comic book.
Yeah, same here. And all kidding aside, there's actually only a very few years difference between you and I on the bottom tier and the youngsters up top. There's only a few years. But those formative years in the 80s are actually what my experience has been, is what makes the difference between the comics and the cartoon. We watched the cartoon, but it wasn't our end all be all. It was going to the bus stop or the bookstore or whatever it is that you happen to have in your town, and getting that comic every month, right?
Eckerd Drugs, man. I go into Eckerd Drugs every month and pick one up.
Yeah. See, and the old comic spinner, right? It was a bus stop for me. There was a Greyhound bus stop down the street in the very early years, because that's what there was. And later we lived in a different town. So there was a small bookstore in town that had comics that they sold with the magazines. So, but the younger guys, and I do mean it's just that couple of year difference. It was all about the cartoon. So, you get into the is it Snake Eyes or is it Duke? It's like, well, how old are you? Because that answers your question. You don't have to, right? Don't have to go any further than how old you are. You'll know if it's Snake Eyes or if it's Duke.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I'm good friends with Matt Stevenson. He's like maybe 5 years younger than me, and it's the same thing. He was more of a cartoon guy, and I was more of a comic book guy, and it was just, I don't know. Like I said, I got issue number 1, and I went through that whole thing. And so when they made Duke the head guy, I was like, nah, he's not the head guy. It's Hawk. Come on, get with the program,
Right. Right. Duke didn't show up until issue 13, and it was at a funeral, or whatever it was. It was what, issue 19 actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, in the action figure looked like he was a Ken doll anyway, so he's all shiny and green.
He didn't look like he was going to hack anybody up or anything. It's just
No. He looked like he was going to come at you and give you a hug.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I watched the cartoon first because there was nowhere to get the comics around.
Yeah.
Where I live, there was no comics.
Right.
And it wasn't until, like I said, of course, I told you guys before, my dad run an egg route, and he would run over to Rome, Georgia, there on the main street. Is it Broad Street in Rome? I can't remember. But the restaurant he delivered eggs to, right next to it was a newsstand. So during the summer, I would go in there, and they had Spider-Man, Red Sonja, and G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the first 3 comics I bought. G.I. Joe number 39 was the first issue I bought. So it done been going 3 years by the time I got the first comic. Of course, I was hooked on the comic, but I'd seen all the cartoons, up to that point. But and so my comic book collection consists of 3 consecutive issues, and then 9 skipped issues, and 3 consecutive, because I was only getting them on the summertime when I'd go in the
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Here's one. Just as a recommendation, best line to start collecting for new collectors. What would you recommend a new collector to start with?
Of any toy?
Yeah, any toy. Yeah, anybody that's thinking about getting into toy collecting, what line would you recommend for a new collector? Like, none, run away.
No, I mean it's if you're a kid and you're just getting into it, I do think that the G.I. Joe classified line is a good line. It just sucks if they got to pay $25 to $30 a figure, and then they got to deal with distribution, which is a headache that Hasbro's dealt with for years. I use my son as an example. My son's 21 years old now, and I've been a collector of G.I. Joe since I was a kid, and I was really hesitant to kind of push it on towards him because we knew a guy that used to come to JoeCon all the time, and he would take his kid and just buy him every single G.I. Joe, and this kid had absolutely zero interest. We used to joke around that he was going to turn to drugs or something to get away from G.I. Joe. But so my son, I kind of played it really cool, and he took a liking to, at the time, which was Sigma 6, which Sigma 6 is not everybody's meat and potatoes.
It's not. But...
some people hate it. He loved it.
Yep.
And so, I was like, so I didn't go, okay, I'm going to buy every flipping one of them. I'm just, it's like, what do you want? He goes, well, Dad, I'd like to get Zartan. Totally cool. And then, so we had a common ground there. But then he switched over to wrestling, and I was totally fine with that, So now we went from Zartan to John Cena and You Can't See Me and all like that. But at least he was playing and he was showing the creativity. So to me, it's like, you take the kid to the toy show and just see what the kid gravitates towards, and just let them decide and see what it is, and then just support them, but support them in a moderation, in a moderated field, so that you don't just totally kill it with them. But I was lucky because he wanted Sigma 6, and so I knew Snake Eyes, I knew Storm Shadow, I knew Tunnel Rat, I knew all those guys. So we had a commonality there. So even though they look totally different from the 80s versions, they're more anime.
They were, yeah. That was definitely that period where, to be honest with you, the animation houses were switching from Japan to South Korea. So a lot of that stuff shifted in aesthetic and storytelling, to be perfectly honest with you. But I agree with that. If you just throw stuff at these kids, the appreciation of it gets lost, and now it's just another thing that's piled on. So yeah, moderation is a great, whatever it is that you're going to collect, do it in moderation so that you don't lose the appreciation for stuff.
Right. If your kid collects G.I. Joe, don't go out and buy the USS flag for the kid. Go down.
Yeah, right. Turn it down a little bit. Get him defiant. Ease him into the flag. Right?
Dad, thanks, a Terradrome. Awesome.
Right. Yeah, like Emmett with my flag. It's just, oh, we got a flag. It's like, no, I have a flag,
I have a flag.
right? No, I have
You,
a
you
flag.
have a wish list.
I have a pulse and a flag. You don't get a flag until I don't have a pulse.
True.
Well, it's right. I mean, let's get real here. I'm his grandfather after all. All of this is not going to last forever. So. Gives him something to look forward to. How's that?
Really.
Oh, number 8. Boy, we're sailing right along here. This one might be interesting. This is new for you. Everybody else will get it from here on out, but this one's new for you because I was thinking about this a lot, making the rounds. And I think this could be a really interesting perspective for us outside of the seller world. What's the coolest item that you have seen at a recent show? Because you guys see so much stuff. What really makes an impression on you is going, do you have that holy crap moment where you go, I haven't seen one of those since, for us, it would be, 1972. For you, it might be yesterday, but what was it?
The one thing when I was a kid that I always wanted is I wanted the Eagle. I forget what they call it, the Eagle something from Space 1999.
Eagle One.
Eagle was called Eagle One. I couldn't remember if it's like Eagle 2 or Eagle 3. And one of the guys had it at the show, and it was complete. Oh, and wow. I went back because if you know that vehicle, the figures aren't very big.
Oh no, they're less than 2 inches.
Yeah, they're horrible figures.
They are.
But I went back and I just remember looking at my Sears wish book, oh, that's what I wanted. So one thing my mom didn't get, and which is strange because my mom and dad, they were very loving and giving people. Fortunately, I guess they saw me going for G.I. Joe and they said, the kids go on G.I. Joe and Star Wars. But I saw that and that was like, I was like, oh man, I really want that. And then I was like, how much is it? And I think he said 6 or 7. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I'm good.
Believe it or not, there's one over in the next room. It's not complete that I found in the trash.
Really?
Yeah. Emmett, it's one of Emmett's pride and joys, but it's in the other room.
It was such a beautiful vehicle, and it was just cool. And it was just so unique and everything like that. And I started watching Space 1999 again. I think it's on Tubi or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that was just one of those toys I always wanted. And when I saw it at the show, I was just like, man, wow. But once the price tag came, I was like, yeah, that one can stay in my memories right now.
That was question 9. Did you buy it? Because that would be very difficult not to with something like that. But you answered that.
No. It's funny that show I bought, same guy. I ended up buying a $10 bag of MPC U.S. Army men. And that's what I ended up buying. Yeah. Some MPCs. And because I grew up with those too. I grew up with Mercs and MPC, and I had the Iwo Jima and everything like that. So I went from a $600 or $700 wish list item to $10. I'm happy, So
yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about my coolest item because it makes me angry.
But I don't know what that is.
Yeah, you all know what it is because you've all heard it because it makes me angry. But,
let's get him angry.
He found a perfectly mint complete Rodan.
Yeah, the Shogun Warriors Rodan. It's the Shogun Warriors Rodan from '78.
Oh, from
Mattel.
Yeah, it was Shogun Warriors.
Yeah, the Rodan figure. I've run into 2 of them in the last 18 months when I had never seen one before at all in the last 45 years. It just they make me angry because I can't afford them.
It's funny because I had friends that had those because those were the big ones. What do they call them? Jumbo Machinders or something like that.
Yeah, one of them was Machinda, and there was Mazinga, and there were
Great Mazinga. Yeah,
and Godzilla, of course. I think most kids had Godzilla. I did, but that
I didn't get those. The ones I got they were like this big, and they were made out of metal. They're metal and
those,
plastic.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the big ones. The 22
Yeah,
inches.
those are the jumbos. The jumbo ones are from. I just watched a thing on YouTube. They're interviewing this one guy, and they were talking about the whole jumbo things, and how they in Japan they were there for a little bit, but then they crossed over here. But if you lived in Japan and you owned those and collected those, you had to be wealthy because people living in Japan had really small apartments, and those things take up a lot of space.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And but I see those because there's a company that's doing those now. They're making it in that same jumbo vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them at toy stores. But yeah, Rodan. There's Rodan and there's Godzilla and Mazinga. Yeah, those were cool, man. I can understand that.
Yep.
So
And
I guess the flag
exploding.
was not a popular toy in Japan, then, was it?
The flag.
Yeah, it's probably bigger than their apartment was.
Oh yeah, that's the truth, right? People just
They
toss
live
it.
in the flag.
Right. Small children just slept on the deck. And they just.
Yeah, really. Marito, go over here.
Let's see. We're at 10. What are we going to do about 10? I'm going to give you a minute. I am intrigued by the diorama thing because we got a new guy in the group that's blasting out small dioramas.
Mhm.
I am toying with the idea of making a really, really large one for a classified setup for my classified figures. You know what? Just talk about dioramas. Talk about the ins and outs of it. Is it terribly expensive? Is it?
No. It's what's really funny is, I've been involved in building dioramas for years. We were hired by 21st Century Toys back when they were in their prime to build a diorama. Actually, we built 4 dioramas for those guys. And then Dragon Models hired us for Weekend of Heroes to build them dioramas. And Brian Savage hired us to build dioramas. And you just have to be creative and you just kind of think outside the box. The biggest thing, we just had a G.I. Joe meeting. We talked about this. Go to Lowe's or go to Home Depot and just get it's either blue or pink insulation foam that's about 4 foot by 8 foot. Or sometimes you can just go get remnants. The foam is the best tool to work with. And then what you do is you go get on Amazon or go to your hardware store or whatever and get a foam cutter. The one I got cost me, I think, $20 or $30. And you have the different attachments. And what you do is you just start experimenting with the cutting of the foam. And then you can start doing, you can build a real simple diorama piece where you do your base and cut out the edges and kind of don't make it look like a square, make it look like whatever you want it to look like.
Right.
And then add the walls to it. And then start practicing with, the simplest thing we used to work with is we would just get a paint that had sand grit in it and just paint the sand grit in there and kind of give it the texture. And then you can just do not use spray paint with foam. I can tell you that. It'll eat the foam up. But I think people psych themselves out when they're building a diorama. They think they have to work with wood. You don't have to. But if you work with the foam, it's almost like clay that you can work with it. And then, like I said, you can either use a paintbrush if you want to paint it. If you're better with an airbrush, I ended up getting me a Posh airbrush at like Hobby Lobby. Yeah. And you just keep, and if you screw up, you screw up. You can paint it over.
Sure,
and then you can just you can get twigs out of your yard, or you can go to Hobby Lobby or whatever, and the stuff that you can get from for the trains and stuff like that is really good. Oh, and then when you're gluing the foam, you got to use foam glue. Some people use the foam glue from the train people. I use foam glue that I get at the hardware store. I put it in my caulk gun and just put it on there, or just put it on a tablet. And then you start learning to do. If you're working on figures, you start learning to do use hemostats. I use hemostats all the time when I'm trying to get the buckles through. Especially on like a 1/6 scale figure. And then you start doing dry brushing, where you're trying to weather your gear, weather your uniform, and it's just a learning process. And I used to be really intimidated by it, but you just have to. I mean, you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
I mean, it's not like there's a camera that's on you, and somebody's going, ha ha, you just screwed up. Nobody's going to know. And you just learn from your mistakes. And that's the reason I always like the dioramas, because I've learned stuff from people. I remember I was building stuff, and I remember a guy did a flamethrower, and he used a dowel rod and then cotton and built the cotton up, and then he airbrushed the cotton to where it looked like the flame coming out.
Right.
And so that's the great thing to do, because then you start talking to other people that are doing it, and you're getting ideas from them, and you start brainstorming, and the next thing you know, you've got your own community again,
Right.
So yeah, it can be as simple, or simple as complex as you want it to be.
Right. I know, I mean, not everybody would be as fortunate and or as foolish as we were, but when they remodeled the Target over here, next town over, Em and I went over there to make a figure check, and the dumpster was sitting out the day that they were leaving and packing up, and there was tonnage of the pink board, the 1.25 inch, 2x8 remnant sheets of insulation in that dumpster. It's like, you wanted to make a big diorama? And he's like, sure. And it's like, okay, jump in. And I mean, we made 2 trips and brought all that insulation home so we can make a monster diorama. And again, all it took was some, tolerate some dirty looks and whatever, who cares? And we got a ton of stuff to get started. So I think we're going to do that. I'm thinking
it's
maybe
fun.
this fall. Yeah. Again, to trigger, I always built models as a kid, and of course, I've been a builder of things. I've built ships for the Navy, and I've built churches, and I've built all kinds of different stuff. Built motorcycles, built a truck once. So this is kind of cool, but it's just, I think that's something that more of us should get into and start thinking about, because we've had this discussion too. Economically speaking, an awful lot of us are going to run out of wallet, not necessarily things to buy. And it might be an interesting and more inexpensive way for us to settle down and start to enjoy the stuff that we've accumulated instead of just continuing to accumulate, if that makes any sense.
And
So,
as I've gotten older, I've experienced that a lot, because it was like, I've been collecting G.I. Joe, Adventure Team. I'm like 95% done. And it's just like, what can I do now? And so, that's where your mind kind of goes to that. And it's like, 3D printing is a really good example. I don't know how to 3D print to save my life, but I know people that know how to. And I work with them. There's a guy, man, I wish I could remember his name. There's a guy. Do any of you guys collect Star Wars at all?
used to.
You too. Star Wars, man. I was Empire Strikes Back. If it was Hoth, I was all over it. I love the Hoth battle scenes. I mean, I've got the Rebel soldiers and everything like that. And there's a guy that is doing these 3D printed parts where it will connect. There's like, I got 1, 2, 3. There's like 4 Hoth play sets that Kenner came out with. He has those things where they connect all 4 of those, but then he has like the ion cannon base, and then he has the Rebel base where it has the back of the thing. And you don't have to, you buy his, I don't know if it's shareware or what, and I'll send it to John, and John can post it later. But it's all Hoth themed. But you go to the guy's site, and I think you either buy it or they share it, and then you print it yourself. So I've got. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like shareware, I guess is what they call it. And I talked Jim Egner. He lives down here in Nacogdoches. He does a lot of 3D printing stuff. And I was like, hey Jim, do you think you do this? And he's like, yeah. So I'm over here looking at my shelf, because we converted a garage into our man cave. And I'm looking at this area that I've got some G.I. Joes, and I'm like, I might have to get rid of those G.I. Joes, because I'm about to build a Hoth base. And, I'm about to have the ion cannon and everything else. And so
that's cool.
So if you go on eBay and you see some Adventure Team stuff going on sale, Greg got his Hoth playset. So.
Just out of GoFundMe. Yeah. There you go. Awesome. That is the end. That is the official end of 10 Hot. What else we got? What else we got for Greg? Anything, you guys?
I'm just going to ask him why he's friends with John.
Oh,
Nancy.
Nancy, that's a great answer.
It's called
Very
Nancy
bro.
feeds him when she goes to the show.
Nancy is like the food pimp because, or the food dealer, because it was like she had some pulled pork sandwiches and she brought them to us. And next thing you know, it was like every show we go to, I'm not calling John. Hey, is Nancy coming? Is she bringing those Boston butts, man? And Nancy is like the den mother at the shows. And yeah, I tell John, I said, you need to thank God you met that woman, because my wife, my wife can't even successfully microwave a bag of popcorn. God love her.
I'm guessing she's.
I had to unfollow Nancy's Facebook page because she would post stuff she was making for John for dinner, and I was like, I hate you. I had to unfollow her.
Yeah,
So I was like,
Nancy
she
has
works
those
with shrimp.
2,200 calorie posts. Yeah, you just.
Oh
look
my
at
God,
it, 4 pounds.
I was like, I haven't seen shrimp that beautiful since I went to like Red Lobster or something, you know. But no, John's a great guy. They're both a great couple. I'm very blessed to know both of them. So
yeah.
I remember the first time I met you, Greg, was at Toylanta 2 years ago, I believe it was, wasn't it, John?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And first thing you asked me was, "Where's Nancy?" And so she couldn't make it this time, and you was like, "Okay, we'll see you later." Like the guy laughing. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh boy, am I busy? See you later, John.
like, did she give you anything, John? Do you have a little carrying case or a little cooler?
Well, now that we've really boosted John's self-esteem here, that's
we wish we'd had if we'd had the Boston butt with us, it got eat before we got there, because Philip wouldn't stop letting us buy it.
You wouldn't.
yeah. Nice.
No. I've got John. How did I get to know you? I think it was because of Rob, wasn't it? Because of Rob Humphrey.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Rob and his wife.
Rob helped you a lot on some of the shows and stuff. You know.
Rob, well, this is what's crazy about Rob is the first show I ever went to was Joe Con in '98 in San Antonio, and Rob and his brother Doug, I think it was Doug, they had a business called Firebase Ryan, where they made sandbags and bunkers and towers.
Oh, cool.
And to me, Rob was like a rock star, because I was just getting into building dioramas and stuff like that. Rob had a business for it. And so there were people like Rob, and there was a guy named Polo Moreno and Trepwire Toys. And '98 was like, I would say, like the golden age for 12-inch collecting, because Hasbro and 21st Century Toys and Dragon models and all those guys really hadn't gotten into it yet. Mm-hmm. So these custom makers were still making stuff. So Rob was like, I was like in awe of Rob. And Rob's a real, John knows about Rob, and I don't know if either of you guys know Rob. Real humble guy, real quiet guy, ex-firefighter, just really nice. And so then when I got to working for Cotswold, I contacted him up and I was like, hey man, do you still make sandbags? And he was like, oh yeah, I do. And I was like, sweet. And so now I think his wife hates me because he's making the sandbags for us. And then she did tell me one time that they didn't like me because he made a water, not a water buffalo, but like a 55-gallon water tank with a stand. And they were made from soup cans. Rob was extremely creative. And his wife came up to me when we did a show, and she goes, I hate you. And I'm like, why? And she goes, we had to eat so much soup because you ordered like 15 of these water drums. And so I was eating soup. My family was eating soup. Rob doesn't like soup, so he wasn't eating it. So yeah, so we kind of resurrected Firebase Ryan, and then he started helping me with shows. And then that's through Rob and his wife I got to know John and Nancy. And it's been history ever since. So yeah,
very cool, very very cool.
Yeah, Rob's he's them sandbags. I mean, he sold a ton of those sandbags. He come from, I think, Toylanta when we done Toylanta like 1 year right before COVID, I believe, and he shipped a bunch of them to my house, and I
shipped them to your house. Yeah.
And then I think he had one box brought back, and we forgot about him. But me and him both did. And I was out there in the shed, and I go to move a box, and I nearly I thought I threw my back out. I'm like, what is in this thing? It was packed full of little sandbags.
He has to. He's found a loophole because
Yeah.
the post office, there's a priority mailbox. It's a flat rate box, and it's like I think $18. And if you
Yeah.
can shove it in that box, it doesn't matter the weight of the box. They'll charge you like $17 or $18. And so literally the box is duct taped and glued and super glued because he's put about 50 pounds worth of sandbags in the thing. And to the point where the post office, if they ship it, they won't deliver it. They call me and they come get your heavy box. And they won't even deliver it because it's like a hernia maker. You know?
We can't spare 3 guys to carry it to the door, so let's come over here and get it. Right?
It's funny because after he shipped those sandbags to my house for the bring to the show, our mailman retired after that.
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Those things are hernia makers, man.
He
They're
said
bad.
he worked that hard since the Sears catalogs used to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, not the wish book either, the spring one, you know, that was 4 inches thick. That's right.
Oh God, that thing. Yeah.
Nice.
That's funny.
I'm sorry, guys. I had a separate small window going on my phone for some odd reason, and I missed a ton of. Oh, never mind. It was just Corey making comments. I don't have to feel bad about missing his comments. I'm sorry, buddy. I couldn't help myself.
Some people's having trouble seeing it.
Yeah, we saw a couple. I saw a couple pop up from Nick.
Yeah, that's on. For some reason, we're not getting the comments from Facebook.
And maybe that's part of that third party nonsense. Maybe that's what started a couple of weeks ago because our comments have disappeared. So you guys got to bear with us. But no, I'm just kidding with you, Corey. I see your comments.
He must be watching it through YouTube.
We got some pictures that Greg sent. We want to add over here. Let him talking about it to us.
Yeah.
So we're going to add those and we'll make sure we make them full screen.
Oh God.
There you go.
Yeah, those were my chunky years. Yeah. Yeah, that was during the Chili Bowl season of '87 or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I was very lucky. I have 2 older brothers. One is 11 years older than me, and one's 13. So I was practically an only child.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my bedroom there. And to the right, you can kind of see a ladder that goes up. My dad, he built an unfinished pine shelf. I mean, it was mounted on the wall, and I could climb up the ladder, but if you wanted to, you could climb up that thing, and it was full floor to ceiling. I collected G.I. Joe, I collected Star Wars, and I collected Masters of the Universe.
Nice.
And
I'm just digging that carpet, man.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that?
That's a
wondering how many accessories, bipods, and whatnot.
Yeah, 12-inch Joes. That's shag, man. You could lose a whole 12-inch Joe in that carpet.
Brother, I lost so many parts in that thing. I don't know. I probably lost every single microphone to an MBT brawler, driver or whatever,
right?
Stuff like that. And we had what was it? We had an avocado colored refrigerator in the kitchen too, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You guys are actually looking at $13,000 worth of accessories just in that one carpet.
No doubt about that.
Yeah. At that age, I hadn't discovered girls yet, so I was still playing with Joe. So
Ah, well, there was always Scarlett and Lady J.
Well, I didn't get that creepy. Yeah, there's another. I was a pure woman machine right there.
There you go.
I was rocking my Ocean Pacific corduroy shorts.
Yep, you got your buddy there with his rat T-shirt. He was real popular.
Yeah, that's my friend. That's my friend Ashley. I'm still friends with that guy to this day.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And my mom got that aircraft carrier. This woman bought it for her grandkids, and they had no interest in it. And she bought that, and it was not missing a thing. It had keel haul and everything for $25 at a garage sale.
Isn't that insane?
Shane pass out.
Yeah. So we played with that outside. And what was crazy, you can't see it in the background, but we would take other parts and pieces. And he and I were big into Mad Max. So we're always taking starts and putting it together and we would take the G.I. Joe headquarters and pop off the front of it and move it around. And then we took Lincoln logs and built stuff with Lincoln logs.
Yeah.
And so we would have like this Mad Max compound, and we would modify all the vehicles. And so, I mean, heck, what was it? What was the Dreadnought vehicle? The one that had like a Pontiac or a Trans Am front end to it.
Thunder Machine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
when the Thunder Machine came out, we were like in Mad Max heaven.
Oh yeah.
big time, yeah.
Oh my God! But yeah, we were fortunate. We had this big concrete slab out there in the back, and we would remove the picnic, the patio furniture, and man, we went out there. Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that flag anymore. I sold it. It was just I got married and. I was like, pay for a ring or, keep the flag, So,
I hear you. You can always get another flag.
Difficult choices.
Yeah, I can't always get another wife because, man, I dated these girls and I always tested them because I was like, hey, you want to go to Toys R Us? And they'd look at me like I was a freak, Like Toys R Us? Why do I want to go to Toys R Us? And I'm like, oh, well, you didn't pass my test, lady.
Yeah, right. You're not worthy.
Yeah. So my wife, she passed it. It was like I took her to go eat Chinese food at an all-you-can-eat buffet. She loved it, And then we went to Toys R Us, and she goes, "Oh, this is awesome." I'm like, "Do you want to go to Target next?" And she goes, "Yeah, let's go to Target." I'm like, "Sweet."
On to Walmart for a ring now.
Yeah, right. I just went to Walmart for the ring. Yeah.
Selling that flag. Let's get a ring on that finger.
Ironically, those shorts are back in style nowadays.
They kind of are, aren't they? Yeah.
No, God. Yeah, my mom used to make me, God, I don't know if you guys remember these things. They were called Husky pants. You remember Husky pants back in the 80s?
I never had any, but I remember them, yeah.
Well, I had every one of them. Because I was a chunky kid all the way through, and then about when I turned 17, 18, I finally lost all my weight. But that was how I looked. I was a chick magnet back then, man.
Awesome. No, I didn't. I was a skinny, scrawny kid, man. I had the metabolism of a kangaroo rat on crack. I couldn't, man. I could eat half a cow and not gain an ounce, So
I could look at a cow and gain 5 pounds. So that's how bad it was.
Yeah. Nice.
This was actually at JoeCon when it was up in Frisco a few years ago. God, when was that? They did it in Frisco, and they did another. The guy behind me is my friend, and he was only there on Friday, and then he got like a stomach bug, and he was sick Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, he was sick. But what was so cool about this one is I'm sitting there and I'm working the show by myself, and Kirk Bazigian walks into my booth. And I'm like fangirling because I know who he is. Yeah. And he goes, hey, how's Tina doing? When Tina was the owner of the company at the time, and I was like, Tina's great. And he goes, well, tell her I said hi. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know what to say to him. I was like, can you sign my Law and Order? But so I don't handle celebrity very well. I turn into a super nerd.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
Very
well. Oh, that's our logo.
Very well traveled. You've made the rounds with the shows, that's for sure.
Man, I've been to a ton of them. Yeah, it's our logo. We've been to this is actually our 35th year of being in business.
Awesome.
So pretty happy with that.
That is awesome.
Pretty happy with that. Cool. I think John asked for some stuff. He was asking for new stuff. These are just some new things that have been popping up on the radar lately. That was a Lord Star Killer. Oh man, it's from Hot Toys. God knows how much that thing is. I think you have to sell a kidney to get that bad boy.
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know Expanded Universe very well. I'm an episode 3, 4, and 5 kind of guy. Or excuse me, 4, 5, and 6 kind of guy. Sorry.
4, 5, and 6, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's probably Knights of the Old Republic. Oh, that looks awesome.
I bought that, man. That is from Mezco, and that's from their 1/12 collective. So they're 1/12 scale figures, so they're in the same realm with classified, but they actually have cloth outfits on them.
That's cool.
And so they did a Destro, they did a Snake Eyes. I think they've done a Storm Shadow, and I think the next one's coming out is Firefly. And if I get the two most favorite characters I liked were Firefly and Snake Eyes. So it's like
Yeah.
when Sideshow came out with those guys, I got them. Metacom got the license to do 12-inch versions of those guys. I got them. So I have Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, and Firefly. And so this one came out. It was, I think they're like $109.99 retail or something like that.
Mhm.
And I jumped on it. If the only other one that I would get, and I've yet to see anybody do it, is I was a big fan of Footloose. In the 3 3/4-inch line, and I've been asking around. I don't think they've done a single Footloose in classified yet.
No,
So
They haven't. No, he's on the list. He's coming.
doing
I've heard that.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, but I thought this is kind of like a thing that not a whole lot of G.I. Joe collectors are aware of, is that Mezco has a 1/12, their own 1/12 scale lines.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right, this is one of ours. So if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Cotswold, we have our own brand called Elite Brigade.
Cool.
And it started out, Elite Brigade started out as replacement parts. So if you lost a hand, we made the hand, the legs, the repair kit. But then we started doing our own figures. And so Tina was always focused on doing military themed figures.
Mhm.
When I came along, I wanted to do adventure team thing figures. And if you're from Adventure Team never had bad guys. Of course, Adventure Team, they left it up to your imagination to create the bad guys, which is great. I mean, in fact, even G.I. Joe didn't have names. I mean, you had the Land Adventure, and you could call them whatever you wanted to.
Right.
So this guy is actually an homage to the Collectors Club. They had a figure called the Man of Evil, and he was a bad guy that dressed up like the Man of Action. So he had this face mask on, and you put this eye patch on him and everything like that. But then you took all the stuff off, and he was called Man of Evil. So this one is called Baron Von Evil. So it's been 11 years since the club had this figure out. So I thought, well, for 11 years, he's probably worked up the ranks, and now he's like a Baron.
Right.
And so that's what we have. He's got the eye patch, and there's a gentleman by the name of Ray Cairo, who does flocking. And he also does customizing. So that if you get a close-up on the guy, you take off the eye patch, his eye is white instead of having color to it, and there's a scar that goes down his eye.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah, that's one of our newest figures. That's my fun thing, is I like coming up with some new creations and stuff like that. So that is I know it's the cheesiest name, but weren't they all cheesy back in the 70s? Baron Von
They
Evil.
sure were.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It's kind of like Victor Von Doom,
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's that boy. This is a neat line. I don't know. Are you guys familiar at all with Joy Toy?
I've heard of them. Yes.
Yes, because of their dioramas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those things were like the cat's meow, because we were carrying those, and they quit doing them.
Yeah.
And everybody that was like when we went to Joe Fest, it was like all the guys, like the guys from Marauder and all like that, were like just snagging up the diorama bases because they're 1/18 scale.
Right.
They expanded and started doing Warhammer, and we were carrying Warhammer, but the Warhammer was they were a very different crowd of collectors, and we just never could get our foothold into that.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff right here, these are 1/18 scale, but they're still kind of in the special forces kind of vein. The heads, some of the heads, I'm not crazy about the helmets that they have on some of them. So I'm trying to find out if I can pop the head off and if I can put a Marauder head on it, because you can get the Marauder heads for like a $1.99 or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys, I love them because they're like, we sell them for $18.49, and they come with a hand assortment. They're not O-rings, so I'm still an O-ring purist, but they're still cool, and it's still good to see another company out there cranking out 1/18 scale figures.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to show them to John.
Cool.
Very cool.
This one's a weird one. Are you guys familiar at all with World Peacekeepers from
No.
MNC Toy Center?
No.
Yeah. These guys were, if you remember, you would go to Big Lots, and you go down the toy aisle during Christmas, and they had all these 1/6 scale figures. They have a line called World Peacekeepers Ammobots, AMMOBOTS, and they never sold them in the States. They sold them in Asia a lot, And I lucked out. I've been working with these guys, and we just started getting it. That's actually like an aquatic submersible type of thing. And they're
okay.
they're
That's
1/18 scale. They're 1/18 scale. So we're trying to kind of bring them in. And it's like, what if RoboCop and Halo had a baby? And that's what you got. You got.
Right.
And then the aliens look exactly, well, they don't look exactly, but the aliens have a real Halo vibe to them, but they're super articulated, 1/18 scale, and they're just super cool. And I'm real happy we're finally able to carry that. And all these things you can get at our company. So not to toot my own horn, but
Cool.
Oh no, by all means.
Yep. Those World Peacekeepers, they were also sold in like Dollar Generals and places like that.
yeah, they were. What's crazy is in the very beginning when they first came out, they had really cheesy names. They had Hunter Man, and then they had Astronaut Man.
Something
And
was lost in translation, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, the Chinglish was horrible. And I had people before I went to work for Tina, I had a company called Eclipse Custom Figures and Collectibles. And so what I did is I would do Brian shows and stuff like that. And then somebody came to me and they said, have you seen Hunter Man? Because Hunter Man, the head sculpt was a 1964 G.I. Joe head sculpt where they just removed the scar.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody was like, and this was before Dragon really kicked into gear and 21st Century Toys kicked into gear. So anything that was 12-inch that was out in the marketplace, everybody was eating it up. So I sourced it out through the help of a buddy of mine, and I got it from a rack. What do you call it? It was he was a rack jobber for gas stations, and I don't know you guys are not familiar at all with rack jobbers. People that like you're a rack jobber for like Frito-Lay. You reload all of that. Yeah, he was a rack jobber for like the really cheap toys that you would get at gas stations. They couldn't even make it to the dollar stores. They were so cheap. Yeah. And that's what's so funny is I was talking to them because I have one of my guys here, and I was talking to the people at MNC Toy Center in China, and I sent them a picture, and they're like, "Where did you get that?" I said, "This is one of the first toys I ever sold," and they're like, "That's one of the first toys we ever made." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it was horrible. I mean." Hunter Man. I mean, God, get a little creative,
Yeah.
Call him Bob the Hunter or something.
Bob the Hunt, right? Yeah.
Really? Can he kill it? Yes, he can. So
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I just sent those because he was like, "What did you ask me for? Did you ask for pictures of my collection or something like that, John?" Was that your
answer? Yeah, just whatever. Whatever.
Just send me crap, man. Just send me crap.
Yeah. We just needed something to show. Shane likes showing pictures. So, yeah.
But yeah. So that's just kind of a sampling of stuff we sell and stuff. That's fun. We always tell people, if you're looking for something and you can't find it, let us know what it is and we'll try to track it down. Yeah, I mean, we carry weird stuff. We carry and that's the thing when we were talking about earlier about being creative and thinking outside the box is we go to dollar stores and we go to Hobby Lobby and we go to these different stores and you look at stuff, but you have to look at it with a really open mind. And like Hobby Lobby is really great for finding stuff, especially in their wooden sections. They make a wooden box that's perfect for a 12-inch figure. Mm-hmm. And they generally retail for $7.99, but every so often they go on sale for half of that. So they're like, $3.99 or whatever.
Yeah.
And we used to buy those all the time. And then you go in another section, they have like little wooden crates, and they look like a little chest. And then the best ones, and you're asking about when we're talking about building dioramas, the best ones are going to pet supply stores. And you go into where the aquariums are and where the reptile departments are, and you'll find the coolest stuff, especially more so for 1/18 scale figures than for 1/12 scale. Well, more so for 1/18 versus 1/6. You'll find there's like these little Buddha statues and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you can build that and put some vine and stuff like that. You can go get like the greenery and stuff from like Hobby Lobby or Michaels or MJ Designs or whatever. And you put that in there, and the next thing you know, it's like a hidden temple that is covering up a cobra compound,
Nice. Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to build the little Buddha statue or whatever, it's like, it's right there and it's perfect scale. So once you kind of open your mind up and look at things differently like that, you'll find stuff that is not not on the toy aisle anymore.
Yeah.
You'll find it in other areas. So
Right. Very cool.
That's like I'm starting to get into building dioramas myself, and I've been talking to the guys in the group, Adam especially, because he does a fantastic job. And I found just tons of stuff, like you were saying, it like Hobby Lobby and stuff. It's cool. Yesterday I found a piece of wood, and I've got into Mystic Legions here recently.
Mhm.
Built some castle-looking dioramas and whatnot, and I found a piece of wood that would be perfect for a table. You can build a table for sitting around the table, and they have the chairs and everything for it. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and what you do with those, you get one of those wood burner kits, and you kind of take the wood burner in there and weather it down, and make it look like it was made by Vikings or whatever. Yeah.
Very cool.
Thing with doing dioramas now, especially now, it's not when you started doing them, but there's so many YouTube videos you can go watch now that just walk you step by step. Adam sent me a few last night that I watched, and making ladders out of straws.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy the things that you can do using straws, and especially like bendy straws to make bends for piping around for pipes. It's just pretty cool.
Very cool.
But there's all kinds of things.
Yeah, you just kind of have to just kind of even keep an open mind. I mean, like you said, I never would have thought using foam insulation would have worked. I was working, and I was buying 4 foot by 8 foot pieces of plywood and 2x4s and
a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And it was heavier. It was so heavy. It was so heavy, and then you got to foam, and it was so light, and manageable.
With the foam now, people are using, instead of using the glue to glue them together, they're using magnets.
Wow.
That way you can break it down. And
that's
you can
smart.
Throw it away and whatnot. But they, like with a Dremel tool, that's a lot of things I'm seeing now, where it's got an attachment where you can just make a hole just perfect for that magnet. And you glue that magnet in and put another one on the other side, and it's
wow. That's
cool.
ingenious.
And using a wood burner for burning your lines and stuff for your blocks and bricks and stuff like that. It's just it's crazy what they're doing with dioramas now.
That's it's so funny. Like I said, my kids are 20, 21, 23, and 20. She's about to turn 27. And we have Texas history down here in Texas. Yeah, in addition to U.S. history. And each one of my kids had to go through it, and so they had to do something in regards to the Alamo. And so they were supposed to be built by the kid. Yeah. And so, I walk in there, my first daughter, and I was like, I'll build this for you. I built her a 1/72 scale recreation of the Alamo, the entire compound. The entire compound. I made it out of like milliput or something like that. It was a type of putty. And I was using 1/72 scale, and it fit on literally a 4 foot. It was a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of foam board. And I remember I had to gut the minivan and take the seats out, and I transported it to the show. And the teacher looked at me and she goes, "Did Caroline make this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, she made it. Absolutely." So she gets done, and then the next kid comes up, and I ended up building. I forget what I built for her. I think I used it was some type of putty too. But the time my next kid came along, that's when I discovered using a soldering iron or whatever, or a wood burner, and then taking the foam and burning it in there and creating the brick and then dry brushing the brick. So I built just the church. And then I had the cannons. I bought the cannons. There was a company. It was either, oh God, they were like 54 millimeter toy soldier size. And there was a company that actually made Alamo figures. So I had Santa Anna's Army, and I had the guys. and my son is like, "Hey, Dad, do you need my help?" I'm like, "Yeah, go get me something to drink."
Right. No, I'm busy doing your work.
Yeah, I'm busy doing your homework. And then I would get mad when they didn't get an A. I was like, "That's BS."
Take it personal. What do you mean you didn't get an A? What do you mean
you didn't get an A? I'm going to talk to your teacher.
It's 7,300 hours.
I worked 12. My son worked 12 hours on it. What do you?
Did you see the smoke plumes coming out of those cannons? It really smelled like that.
So, Greg, we have a question there at the bottom of the screen for you. Can you see
What
that?
you got? I want to build an underwater. That's a great question. There was a guy that actually built one. I think he built it. It wasn't 112 scale. It was 118 scale, and it was those submersibles from what was that underwater machine that had like submarines attached to it from Cobra?
Oh, the hammerhead. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the hammerhead.
Oh,
So he
hammer.
built one, and then he put it in this tank. And what he did is he ended up getting everything set up. So he got the hammer, and it was really cool because the guy in the submersible was dead, and so it was like a skeleton. And I want to say that it was like an eels, and so he did the work on the eels where you can kind of see the skeleton and the frogmen ship coming up. But what he did is he got everything set up on that dio and everything done, and then he poured this liquid resin into it. And
Yeah.
and he very carefully, and he told me, because I asked him, I said, how did you do this? And he poured it in stages and let it cure, and then put it in stages.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he would pour it in stages, and then he'd put little fish in there, and then poured more into that. And then it was heavy, man. It was like a cinder block heavy, but it was the most amazing thing. And it looked like you were looking in an aquarium.
Right.
So beautiful work. I wouldn't have that much patience. I would have the fish would fall over and I would throw it away. I'd be like,
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Nick says he's always wanted to be able to do dioramas. He ain't got to do nothing but jump in on it, man.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you just start trial and error, right? I mean,
I would suggest a lot of YouTube videos or talking to people that has done them.
yeah, just get on YouTube. You can't screw it up. Even if you can, you just start over.
Right. Yep.
Well, even like I was watching one last night. If you're burning your lines and stuff, a mistake is not a mistake. It's just more character added to the brick or block or whatever you're doing, or a piece of wood.
Lord might have all kind of character then.
we call it battle worn. Is what we call it.
Yeah. Right.
It's battle worn. Yeah, it's kind of like they say, if you're in a play, if you flub your line in the play, but nobody noticed you flubbed it, and you play it off, you didn't make a mistake,
It's
so
true.
that's the way I look at it.
It's true. Yep. Yeah, you're not restoring cars or anything. I mean, it's not like that. It's not. You're not going for perfection.
No, it's not. It's not. Heart surgery or something. So if you screw up, he's dead. Oh darn.
Right. Yeah. Here comes a lawsuit. No, it's not like
malpractice.
I do wonder, and I got a question for you. Maybe back, was it right after COVID or during COVID when Mike Gardner made that pirate ship with a Kraken for the?
Oh my God!
I mean, that thing literally took up the whole room. It was humongous. What did he do with that after the show?
From what I understand, they saved every diorama. And the plan was because Jolan and Toylanta, at the time, they're no longer affiliated. I don't think they're affiliated with them anymore. They're affiliated with the Cody Lane Foundation. And Cody Lane was the son of David Lane, who was one of the pillars of the G.I. Joe collecting community in Atlanta. And he died. He had some type of terminal illness.
Yeah.
And he passed away.
A year or so ago. Yeah.
And so they started that, and the end game was for them to actually build a museum, to use the money and build a museum. And part of that was to display the dioramas that both Mike Gardner built and that Steve Bug built. I haven't seen Mike in a while. I still see Bug at the shows, but I think that there's a warehouse somewhere that has all of those dioramas that Mike built, and they're huge. That one was beautiful. That was his work. Both their work were beautiful. They did zombies and they did aliens, and the Kraken was just like the coup d'etat. It's a beautiful piece. Yeah, those guys are experts.
I'm trying to save some and send it to Shane.
What, pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nancy found some pictures. I mean, it literally, that thing took up that whole foyer room down there at the Toyland. It was humongous.
Wow.
Yeah, it was downstairs. It was huge. It was.
But he done because the back of the pirate ship you could see the levels. You know, it's like a cutaway if I remember.
Cutaway.
Yep.
And he had it in rollers in his garage because I watched, you know, on Facebook as he would do updates and he'd show pictures of it as he was building it. It was, yeah, he's definitely high expert level on dioramas.
Yeah, those guys. The thing that I've always liked about what they do, and this is something that I've always tried to do in dioramas I build, is you have your main story that you're trying to tell, but then you try to have smaller stories within that story. So, like,
Yes.
we built a 1/6 scale submarine that had like crashed, you know, sunk in the ocean for Brian Savage, and they got these giant radioactive clams, which was part of the set. But we always put Mike Power, the Atomic Man, in some part of the shot. So we had him in a corner, and there was a company that made a 1/6 scale skeleton. So we built the skeleton, weathered the skeleton, found a deep sea diving outfit, took it, weathered it, and then we put him where he got his foot stuck in a clam or something, and he died like 30 years before. But because he was the Atomic Man, his eye still was on. It was still lit. So kind of like we had like this little red Terminator eye that was still working. So from there on, we always try to have Mike Power dead somewhere in the diorama. And so we did that, and we had one who was in a cave versus spiders, and he was dead in the corner.
Well, like
and so that, yeah, it's just a little Easter egg. And but Mike Gardner and Steve Bug were masters of that because you just can't look at it. You just have to almost experience it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
helicopter.
Yeah, the helicopter.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, those guys are good. Those guys are great. What's Nancy doing? She bothering the show?
She's sending pictures from some of the dioramas she took pictures of.
But say if she can overnight me a pork butt, I could probably get it by tomorrow. Love you, Nancy.
It's funny. Our post office, I went to mail something. I said, "Can I send this next day?" And she said, "We don't. Our delivery don't pick up until they pick up early." So she said, "Even if you send it next day, it's still going to take 2 days to get there." So I said, "So I'm better off just sending it priority, right?"
Good night.
Because priority was going to be 2 days anyhow. So well,
you're better off taking that to a horse and slapping him on his butt and letting him go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. When you go to the post office and say, "Hey, can I send this express?" They tell you to come back tomorrow. You know.
Yeah.
It's sad but true.
It is true.
Sad. When we've had people that were like that. They order something like on a Friday, and they're like, "Hey, can you express mail this to me?" And I'm like, "You don't know the post office too well, do you? You're being lucky if you get it by next Thursday."
Yeah,
you know?
Can I? Yes. Is it going to work? No. Yep.
Well, I thought I had some pictures about.
So you better take that to a pastor, let it pray over so to get there
Yeah,
quicker.
right.
So.
Exactly. Nice.
I promised the guys in the group. I don't know if you know, but Four Horsemen Studios done mystery boxes over the last couple of weeks. They've been doing them. I think it started like Monday before last. But you get a new figure and then an old figure that they found in their warehouse. So I ordered one, and I wasn't going to open it till tonight for everybody on the show to see what we get.
Oh, geez, we're out of time.
We have no idea.
Save it for next week now.
Well, I just want to go ahead and open that real quick for everybody because there's some people messaging me wanting to know.
I can tell all through this since the show started. Shane's been over looking at his watch. Okay, come on.
We're out of time, man. I'm telling you, hit the music.
I want to go ahead and open this because I control the music. And here we go. And the reason John don't want me to open this is because he's afraid I'm going to get something he wants.
Uh-oh.
He said it's heavy. I bet he's got that eagle in there.
Oh, it's heavy. This box is heavy.
Yeah, if you got it, what's it to be a moose?
I don't think the moose is on there, but I would love it if it was. Dave, sorry.
Yeah, that would be
so
about
the
right.
first figure, I'm going to try not to look at the next figure, but I've done seen the top figure. And I'm going to send it over here so I don't look at it. But I can tell you it's from the Poxis wave because the lady's on there. Oh, and it's the Stratos. looking guy.
Oh, that does look like Stratos, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Xenothon is his name.
Huh?
This is the newer figure, obviously. Of the Poxus Wave just come out, right? Ain't it the Poxus Wave? No.
The Poxus is when it come out, but was he a part of it?
No, this is the one before the Poxus Wave. That's right.
The Leandra.
The one with the Leandra.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pre-Proxus wave.
That's probably one of the newer ones. That's what I think that is one of the newer ones.
Yeah, this has got to be the newer one because, yeah, he's still available to order and stuff at places. Yeah, not one I really wanted, but he's cool. All right, so let's look at the next one. No lookies, no lookies, no lookies. Close my eyes.
Let's look at it first. Oh, you
Grab
got
the cat.
What is it?
You got the eagle, didn't you? You did,
I got
didn't you?
There he is.
He got
Eagless.
it.
This is about a $250 figure on eBay right now.
Oh, good for you.
Good Lord. What is this? Is this Mythic Legions?
Yeah.
Mythic Legions, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's not one that I wanted. I'll be
Is
honest.
that got the red, white, and blue wings, or is that that's
Yeah.
the first release before
Let
they?
me go to the full screen here.
Yeah, they're red, white, and blue, aren't they?
It's
Yeah.
got the red, white, and blue wings, yes.
Okay. Yep, that is a cool figure right there.
That screams America right there.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's all it does is America.
Try to-
America.
That was it, but they also said something about Prince in there, and I'm gonna check and see if I got one.
Well, congratulations on that one. That's cool.
No, I didn't get one. But anyway, that was just that.
Nice. You happy now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have bought two.
I like the Mythic Legion stuff, but I'm more of the medieval kind of guys. And this one just doesn't scream medieval, and to me, this one doesn't either.
Corey claims that you will not have it long because he wants it. So you know what? Cough up the cash, Buckwheat, and it's all yours. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you look at it. I'm not kidding you. That thing, you know, John, it's selling for about $250.
Yeah.
Good
I know,
Lord.
you know, it's funny when you guys first started talking about those. That is the exact figure that we were all talking about. But it was
Yeah.
what, 10 years old and it was very expensive. That's funny that's what shows up in that box. That's interesting.
They may not be that expensive in a couple of weeks if they.
Oh, well, that's
Bunch
true.
of
Buy more.
That might make the ones that sold eBay a little more affordable now.
Your
Yeah.
birthday is coming
Could
up in
be.
August. Well, it's only April, buddy. So too bad.
Sorry, Corey. But anyway, we can continue on now. Did Nancy send me those pictures?
I texted to him.
She said she texted to you.
Let's see if I got them. Let me see if I can get them pulled up here. I can continue while I try to do this.
Yeah, they. I wonder if they've sold out. Boy, he's going all together, isn't he?
Y'all made him mad.
Boy, that's pretty bad when the producer of the show disappears. That's
Yeah.
that's not a good sign. We're probably
I
not
can hear
even
what
live.
you're saying.
I had to,
I can still hear you guys.
That's all right. It's all right. Corey's still teasing about Eagle Man there. He really wants that bad, but I wouldn't sell it to him. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, like the next day after that sale, they said like 70% of their inventory was gone. So
That's
they
awesome.
had apparently they had them all boxed up already. So once people ordered, all they had to do was to start sticking shipping labels on them and send them out.
Hey, that's the way to do it, right?
And yeah,
And they were just mystery boxes. You didn't know what you're going to get.
you knew you was going to get one newer figure from the last couple of waves, and then one from the warehouse find, which is
Oh, wow.
So it's because I mean it's the figures the normal standard figures retail for like $49.99. So
Wow.
you're getting the
Oh, yeah.
mystery box for $75. So regardless of what you get, you're getting like a $50 discount or
Pretty
$25
much, yeah.
discount.
Right.
But
yeah.
the Eagle was, I think retail on it was $75. So Shane actually done good on that.
Yeah, he did very well with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Those guys were the ones that they were licensed to do the designs for Master of the Universe, right? Four Horsemen.
Right.
Four
Right.
Horsemen,
Yeah, because they got several of them that look very, very much like they got one that looks like Stinkor. They done
Yeah.
Battle Cat and a Panther that looked like, humans with cat heads, but they were painted green and purple with a.
Yeah, I remember when they came to Toylanta last year. I remember they had kind of like that Stratos looking figure. That it kind of had that Master Universe vibe or Universe vibe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I never got into the Master. I mean, I collected Master Universe when I was a kid, but when they started having the resurgence of it and everything, I just never really got into it. I just pretty well stayed the path with G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So smart move.
Well, I mean, it's a cool brand. I tell you the one is I was going to talk to you about, John, since that I kind of wish they had. I'm surprised they haven't had a resurgence in Starcom. I know there's a diehard collector group base out there, and I know somebody did a female Starcom figure, but I'm surprised that somebody hasn't picked up that license. Especially like Nacelle Toys. I know Nacelle Toys. They've been picking up some of the more unusual licenses. They did. What was that one with the robots? They had the robots with the suction cups on them.
Yeah, the Robo Force.
Was it Robo Force? I know they picked up that license and they kind of gave them a new twist on them.
Yeah. But they're the same ones that's got the Sectars out too, aren't they?
Yeah. It's the same guys that do the Toys That Made Us commercial. I mean, Toys That Made Us documentaries too. Yeah. I forget Brian Volk Weiss is the guy's name. But yeah, he's got the Sectors, and so I'm surprised they haven't. But then again, like I said, I collected. Well, I gave you all my collection.
Those
things were cool. Yeah, one day I will collect.
I just thought the magnet thing was an awesome idea. Back when I was a kid, I thought, man, this is great. You just stick them on there and they stay. You didn't have to worry about foot pegs breaking off in the bottom of their foot or anything.
Oh yeah, and the fact that they had that spring-loaded type of thing where you kind of pick up the cargo thing with the magnet and you hit the button and put it on top of the truck or whatever. And the vehicles had smaller looking little big. What was that big black bad guy ship? It was like there was that one and it had two smaller ships. Shadow was but the smaller ones were called Parasites or something.
Yeah, I think so. Parasites. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know until a few years ago that those would attach to that.
Oh yeah.
Because I never had that when I was a kid. And that's one of the ones I got for you was the big ship.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
That was the last thing that I collected before I kind of got out of everything and I went off to college and everything. But like I said, my brothers are older than me. So I was real fortunate because I got all their hand-me-downs and I had Major Matt Mason when I was a kid. And I loved Major Matt Mason. It was just so cool. And so when Starcom came out, I was like, oh man, it's astronauts again. And God, man, they're little willow boogers when you're trying to find everything. Unfortunately, I think I had most of the hoses, the backpacks, and the visors. I think I made out about 2 or 3 visors. But it was a super cool series. I think was it Coleco who made those?
Coleco, right?
Coleco, yeah.
Yeah, Coleco.
Yeah, super cool series. The scale was totally different, but I mean, they were about maybe 54 millimeters or 2 inches tall. But I loved them. I think they only lasted. I think they made them in the U.S. and did they continue on in Europe or something? Or generally,
there's like 4 vehicles that was only released in Europe.
Right.
And actually, the first Toylanta they had right after COVID, I run into a guy at the lobby swap. It was when they had it at that other hotel, the one right before this one. And he had actually was in Europe when COVID hit, and he got stuck over for 2 or 3 months before he could come home. So he just went around hitting markets and stuff, and he found some. He actually had some of the exclusive Starcom ships, and I bought one of them from him. And I had his contact. He lives in Huntsville. I had his contact. I never did contact him because I was going to try to get the others because he had the other 3. He had all 4 of them, and but yeah, they're really cool, and most of them, press a button and it'll open up, and the parts, it's sort of like motorized.
Yeah, it was the same thing where, it just had a simple loading technique and like that. I loved them; they were great. Yeah. I don't need to go. That's why I sent you all mine. I was like, I don't need to go down that path. So if I send it to John, I won't collect him anymore. Otherwise, I'm going to be calling John going, hey, man, you still got those? So,
Yeah, you made me sign that contract saying I wouldn't get rid of them.
hey, that's darn tootin' I did. I'm like a recovering alcoholic, man. You know, I give away my toys and I want them back, man.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've got these pictures of the dioramas you guys were talking about. I'm gonna look at them real quick.
I found pictures.
Oh yeah, there we go. That's the Kraken in the ship there.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
No, that's holy cracking.
Yeah,
Holy
exactly.
crap, right there.
Wow,
And you-
that's an immense amount of work.
And you could see the diorama. It even included a house on land in the background where it's like right up against the dock.
Wow.
That's pretty cool, man.
Wow.
And those were 6-inch scale figures, right?
12 inch.
No, those are 12-inch tall. That's
12
1/6
inch.
scale.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Man,
Dave.
So
Dave
this
was-
man is single and has no children? Is that what you're saying?
If he wasn't that, he was married and is now divorced. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, he's got a wedding ring on, so somebody's awfully
Right.
understanding.
Very much so.
I mean, you see like the little barrels and all there.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
That's
man.
amazing.
I mean, it's amazing. Some of that.
Little coffin
You-
there.
You spend hours looking at those things
Right.
because there's so much detail in it.
Yeah, but that makes sense because something like that is either going to do the trade shows or it's going to end up in a museum of some kind because
Yeah.
it's just that's
It
amazing.
belongs in a museum.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's very cool.
Man, it's just cool.
Now this
They
is
just-
this has got to be a mix of wood and styrofoam and spray foam insulation and
yes,
whatever.
that'd be-
Yeah, I mean, unreal.
So that Kraken is just awesome.
It's just mind numbing. Yeah, see, and that's the thing that if you're wanting to get into diorama making, you don't show that to the new guy.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Can you build this by next Tuesday? Yeah, sure.
Oh, this was amazing. This is from
World
God,
War Z or what? Look at that.
yeah, World War Z. It's World War
Yeah.
Z.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Walls of them like that, climb right up each other.
I forget how many 12-inch figures did he have in this thing? It was
About 200 or so.
yeah, I think so. He told me, I can't remember that, but I think
Wow.
it was well over 200 for sure.
Goes all the way up to that helicopter.
that
That's
is
amazing.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, see, that's something I'll never do.
Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive build.
Look at that little bird. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
21st century toys, man. Those were beautiful, beautiful helicopters.
amazing. Yeah,
That's
that
crazy.
is so cool.
How many figures you say you used on this? 200 plus?
I
Yeah, it
would
was over
easily,
200.
easily.
Oh, gotta be. Yeah, look at that. Look at the smoke.
Cats in there you try to find
Oh yeah, he had cats hidden in that too.
like 17 or something.
Yeah, he always had a weird little thing going on. Yeah,
Easter
little,
egg.
little Easter eggs, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
These
think
two were just standing there watching, going, "Boy, I'm glad they were attacking that helicopter."
Hey, there's a flamethrower. Check that flamethrower out.
Yep, that's flamethrower. That's that technique I was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is
just
cool,
so
man.
cool.
What's
That's
really
cool.
cool about that technique, I don't think he did it, but I've seen guys that actually they'll take that dowel rod and then they'll put some LED lights in
Yeah.
it and then
Yeah.
put the cotton and then you can just see it glowing from inside.
Oh wow, that is good.
Yeah, LED lights, man. The technology in LED for dioramas now is amazing.
Changed
yeah.
everything, didn't they?
Oh, it's a game changer for sure.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Crazy. Crazy.
Where did he get all the figures to do this? Is what I want to know.
you know, I don't know because I know I want to say that he starts these dioramas way more a year in advance. So it's like like he probably was working on this
Definitely,
one
yeah.
after while he was doing the Kraken one or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I used to talk to Steve Bug a lot more than I talked to him about the dioramas, but I was just always in awe. I don't know. I mean,
he had several on that pirate ship.
Oh yeah.
And then,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know where he finds all those figures at.
Wow.
or where he found the outfits, because you're not exactly cracking out pirate outfits in 1/6 scale these days, you know?
No.
Yeah, exactly, huh? That's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one he ever built that I saw, he built a tripod Martian walker from what was it, War of the World.
Yeah.
And that thing stood 8 foot tall.
Wow.
And it was just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Mike Gardner, man, he's just a genius guy.
Who done the? Because I don't think it was Mike. I think it was somebody else that done some of the Star Wars dioramas. I remember one they had of indoor that actually had the AT-AT at the platform where Luke met Darth Vader. And
I don't know.
Fuel generator platform, yeah.
Right, and he had. I think one year they had one of like the run on the Death Star with the X-wings going down the trench to blow. You know,
doing the trench thing. What scale was it? Was it 1/18 to scale?
These were the 3 3/4 inch for the because it used I think they used that deluxe AT-AT. You know, they made that bigger AT-AT.
Yeah, the big one
Mhm.
with the
big one.
hologram and all that stuff.
I
Yeah.
think they had one or two of
I
those.
remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know who did those. I've only recently, since I've sponsored the diorama for Steve shows, that I'm starting to discover. I'm starting to discover more 1/18 scale customizers. I got to tell you the story. It's I don't know if John's ever heard it. All right. So anyway, I sponsored the dioramas for the Kentuckiana show, and they had I don't know if I was having a bad day or what was going on, but they had all these contest entries, and Steve presented me the grading criteria. And I'm the type of guy that if I'm gonna look at a diorama or look at a figure, I'm just gonna look at it. I'm gonna look at the aesthetics, see how much work they put into it, and everything like that. And the rule books that they gave me literally was like 3 pages long on how to grade this stuff. And I was like, you know, I'm not a member of the the Plastic Model Association. So I was like, I don't know. I was not in a good mood that day. And so I'm looking at these these figures, and one of them was what was it? Is it the Ultimate Warrior from WWE? Was that the name of the guy?
Yeah.
He had the face paint and everything.
Yeah.
Well, the person he had taken like one of the Marvel Legends figures or whatever and repainted it and this and that, and paint job was bad, and I just eviscerated it. I mean, Simon Cowell had nothing on me that day. I was just, oh my God. And so, you know, I looked at that, and then I looked at some other ones, and you know, and I graded harshly. And then I wrote notes, and I mean, I put, you know, a blind kitten on Saturday could have created something faster and better than this thing. I mean, it was just harsh, but I didn't think that they were going to read them. So
how to make
I
friends
go
and
off.
influence people, right?
Listen, when I do judging, I never write anything. I'm just like, okay, originality, yes. Time spent on it, this. Does it capture the yes? I mean, this day I was just like, I've seen better stuff coming out of a dog's butt after he's eaten kibbles and bits, you know. And it was just, and so they're reading this, and I skewered the vote because there was voting, and because of the way I voted against it, it just totally jacked up the tabulations of first, second, and third. And one of my friends came and they're like, "Dude, what did you say that? There's a kid that's crying out there because of what you said."
Just being
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, you know, it was a kid that created the Ultimate Warrior. I'm like, are you talking about that piece of crap that over there? And I'm like, yeah, he's about to go into art school, you know, because he's talented and he's in the gifted and talented program. And I said, well, I just saved her some tuition money. He needs to go back to public school.
Yeah, I don't know who told him that, but they were wrong, right?
I don't know who told him that. He must have gotten 5 too many participation awards, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah,
So, yeah.
the art. To be fair, the art school was the same one we used to see where draw the turtle, right, and send it in on the matchbook. That's
I'll be tracing that pirate face. Yeah.
Yeah.
But needless to say, I would sponsor the contest, but I never judged the contest anymore after that. So.
That's terrible.
Funny, but terrible.
I found the pictures of that Star Wars setup. I sent them to Shane. I don't know if you got them. I sent them through Messenger. They also had a big pod racing arena too. I found pictures of it.
I saw one of those. I didn't see one of those dioramas. That was very cool.
I'm just
Very, very cool.
And dioramas are cool. Yeah, don't let Dave Gardner's masterpieces intimidate you.
Oh no, that's a different level. No,
that's like, beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're over here doing paint by numbers. That's like Sistine Chapel stuff.
No doubt.
You know?
Yeah, man, you can't afford a Porsche, man. You got to start with that Yugo and build your way up.
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
right. Yeah, you go in the ditch. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mine are like Yugos on cinder blocks.
Yeah.
Nancy wants the three of us to do a diorama and have it done in a month, and then send it to Greg for judging. So.
Oh yeah, I can. Go ahead and judge it now. I'll cut out the middleman. Go ahead and judge it now.
And our next guest is Greg. Oops, Greg's off the line again. Sorry, Greg. Yeah. God, yeah. Imagine, man. There's some kid out there right now. He's probably working at a 7-Eleven because his dreams of being an artist have been dashed because some asshole, some jerk wagon from Texas who just totally skewered him.
Oh wow. You probably saved him a tremendous amount of heartbreak.
Right. You get a lifetime of Slurpees, though. I mean,
For real.
Know your limits, Junior. Just.
I'm gonna contact Steve. I'm gonna get the picture of that Ultimate Warrior and send it to you guys because I was like, that's crazy.
Oh boy,
that's funny.
So you guys do this every Sunday?
We actually, some of them are recorded earlier.
Gotcha.
No, we're actually live every Sunday. We try. Well, we take a week, holidays and stuff like that every once in a while.
Yeah.
But that's about it. We're here every Sunday.
That's cool, man. I've had fun.
Tell your friends. We sit here and we talk. I mean, we don't, like I said, we're not here to break news because we can't. We don't have those kinds of sources.
We do, but we're not telling nobody about them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, so
keeping it under wraps.
Right. Yeah, because we do. We have a direct line with Hasbro, but we don't share anything ever. No, I mean, we talk
that line's always busy.
we just talk about the hobby. We talk about what we picked up. We talk about new lines. We talk about old lines. We just we just sit here and talk about toys and stuff. We have a good time. We talk about comics often.
Yep.
We're always looking for good guests. So one of these days we'll actually get one.
Look at the time. I gotta go.
I'm sorry, buddy. You've been here for 2 hours. You're part of the family now. It's open game.
Great.
Actually, we've had a fantastic time with you tonight. You've been a great guest.
Ron's gonna be like, "We got canceled last night. Sorry, Greg."
Yeah, no, I mean we did Larry Hama last year, which was awesome. We did Josh Blaylock last year, which was actually better because Josh hadn't been to a show in what did he said in like 12 years. He had not done a show and hadn't talked G.I. Joe in over 12 years. So
where's Josh at now?
He's still doing Devil's Due stuff out of Chicago. Then he's got that Mercy Sparks comic that he's chugging along on. He's doing okay. I mean, doing okay.
I remember I boothed like right next to him, or like one booth over when he was set up at one of Brian's shows back when Devil's Due had the G.I. Joe property. He's a very nice guy. Real nice guy.
Oh yeah.
He and I had I had never met the man. He and I had a fantastic conversation off the machine. None of it was recorded, and it wasn't like it was just between he and I, because he actually filled me in on a lot of the stuff that was going on back then, and it was specifically with Hasbro, and it was specifically with one guy that worked at Hasbro, which I don't know. You guys could say better than I. I think that added a lot to that interview, to have all that background coming into it, because you kind of understood that there's certain places you can and can't go. Because I tell you what, they had him clamped down pretty hard after they pulled that whole disavowed thing and everything else, because they just said, "Hey, you're canon," and then they said, "Hey, you're not, and we're going to pretend like you never existed." And that's exactly what they did, and it was awesome to see him. We after hours, after the show was over and they'd thrown everybody else out, it was actually awesome to sit there. I was sitting right next to Larry Hama, and Josh came over, and they just started having this impromptu conversation. That was fantastic to sit there and listen to these two guys, going back and forth about stuff that's it's not public knowledge, and that was fantastic. I'm hoping to get Mr. Hammer again this year, maybe in Chattanooga. I really did want to go to Dallas this year to catch up with all of those old Hasbro guys.
Yeah,
I'm just not going to be able to do it. But
Larry was just what was he over? He was over in Raleigh this weekend, wasn't he?
Yep.
It was him and Rudat and Jim Shooter and who else was there? I know Tristan was with Ron. Yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot on our show, because I do know, I'm sure you guys know, we have our show the same weekend as Joe Fest, which we didn't plan, but it's the way it happened. Right. But we're already working on it for next year. I'll tell you, it's been a godsend. I don't know if you guys know Dan Klingensmith, really great guy, and he was very instrumental in helping us bring in some of these guys. We've had Ron before, Ron Rudat and his wife Jenny, great folks.
I would love to talk to him.
Oh man, he is. Oddly enough, I've talked more to Jenny than I've talked to Ron, but when I do get to talk to Ron, he's a really good guy.
Yep.
Larry, I haven't got to talk to Larry as much. The only common ground I ever had with Larry is he came to Toylanta one time, and we went out to eat dinner with him and with Buddy Finity, and he and I were talking about. I don't know if you guys still work on models. I used to work on a model kit line. It was called Machine and Krieger by a model company called Nito. And so I'm sitting there eating, and I'm like, what do I talk to Larry Ham about? Do I talk to him about Silent Interlude and be a total geek nut, with them? Silent Interlude. And so we started talking about Nito Machine and Krieger sets, and then we hit it off really good. Yeah. And so really, really nice guy. The coolest guy, though, I don't know if you have ever interviewed him yet, is Kurt Bazillion.
No, I want to. I would love to get those guys.
Yeah.
Kurt is the coolest guy ever. He is just like...
the thing is, we're just a bunch of guys sitting here in Alabama. It's not like we have talked to so many people at the shows about coming on the show, but then it just dries up. It's out of sight, out of mind. We've talked to so many people. I would love to talk to all of those guys, because I think it would be
just reach. I mean, do you have his information? I bet Kirk would be on the show.
No, I barely have Shane and John's information. I don't have it. No, I mean,
I'll send you his information. Kirk is
I tell you,
the
that
most
would be awesome.
down-to-earth guy.
I'd love to talk to those guys.
Oh, he is great. They're all really good. The thing that blew my mind was I'd always heard this story that one of the G.I. Joe designers lived in Dallas. I was like, there's no way in God's green earth, because most of those guys were up in Rhode Island.
Right.
And they're like, no, there's one guy's name is Frank Cornelius. Cornelius, always screw up his name. I just call him Frank. And he's the guy that created the Raider. He created the Condor X-25. I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
And then he created the what was the one? It was It was the Sergeant Slaughter, but it was the armored personnel carrier that had the Sergeant Slaughter in the brown.
Warthog.
Warthog, yeah. And so Frank created that. He created a bunch of different ones. He lives an hour from me.
No kidding.
And so, I mean, super cool guy, very modest. Before he worked for Hasbro, he worked for Cadillac Gauge, and they helped design military vehicles and stuff like that for the government. And so that's where when he came over from there to work for Hasbro, he did that stuff. And but that's the one thing I've been sitting, since we've been getting ready for the show, I've been sitting in with these Zoom meetings with those guys, and I don't say a word because those guys are talking, and I'm just a sponge because I'm just like I'm turning into a 10-year-old again, you know.
Oh, I'd love. I grew up in Maine, which means Boston was 4 hours away, and no one ever came to Boston. So, I mean, I never even went to any show of all these years of collecting. I never even went to a show until I came down here to Alabama.
Really?
Never had an opportunity to meet any of these guys. No, I mean, so I'll talk to anybody. I'd love it. That would be awesome.
We've always had a motto when we go to shows, because most of the time we go together, it's just to ask, and all they can say is no.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Dave got out of his tail was wagging.
The big dog's here. He decided to camp out with me tonight. So.
Well, that's a funny thing, because it was like when we were planning for the show, Ron was on the fence because Ron's doing those projects with Carson. And Ron was like, I don't know if I can do it because we might be doing something for the G.I. Joe what's Carson's thing called? Declassified? Or something like that? Yeah. And so and then I contacted because I knew Greg Burnson, and I contacted Greg Burnson, and I talked to Kirk. Kirk was the first one I contacted, and Kirk goes, "It's in Texas? Hell yeah, I'll go there." I mean, like I said, he's the coolest guy ever. And then I never thought about bringing in Hammer. We had Hammer for the show one time, and I've run into him at the other shows. Really nice guy. But everybody and their dog kept saying, "Why don't you bring in Hammer? Why don't you bring Hammer?" But at that time, we had like 7 guys working for Hasbro at the show. And I thought for sure that I was certain that Ed had booked him already, you know? And everybody kept saying it. So I just thought, I'm just going to contact him, and I'm sure he's just going to tell me no. And then I can just post on the group, "Hey, I tried to get Hammer, and Hammer's already booked." He hadn't been booked. And this was like in January.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was just totally flabbergasted. And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I don't have anything going on." He said, "I got a show before that. And I got a show after that." And I'm like, "Sweet." And so I contacted everybody else. And because I always try to make sure that everybody who's coming to the show as a guest, that they get along. Because
exactly.
You do get some guys that are like egos, and every one of the guys goes, "Yeah, we get along great with him," especially Ron and everybody like that. So, and what's cool about these guys we're bringing in is they've worked with each other at one point or another, all the way from '81 all the way to almost near the end.
Yeah.
And so, like, you get Kurt Groen, he was working on the sets that I kind of outgrown. It was actually the DEF and I think like the Mega Marines and all those other ones. So, and that's the guy I kind of want to talk to, because I'd already kind of aged out of it by then. But he was also one of the guys who worked on Hall of Fame. And so we're really excited because we're going to do a panel. We're going to do the Real American Hero panels, obviously, but we're going to do a panel on Hall of Fame and classic collection and stuff like that, which is the people that grew up with that. They're in their 20s and 30s now, so they kind of want to see what's going on with that too. So we're pretty stoked about it.
No, that sounds.
We are going to film it. So we're going to record everything, and we're going to broadcast it at a later time. So if you can't make it, you can still watch the panels.
Nice.
So we are going to broadcast that. So
Chase makes me want to go to Dallas even more.
Yeah, for real.
Well, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing it again the next year. We're moving it to a new, larger location, and we've actually had some other designers that work for Hasbro that they want in on the action. So we said, hey, not a problem. We really went big because this is the 60th year of Hasbro. This is the 60th year of G.I. Joe. 1964 to 2024. So we, everybody that worked on the 60s line, they've all passed away. Rudat's the only one that really worked. He worked on the Adventure Team line into the very end. But most of the other guys are older than Rudat. So we invited them, and they're like, "Man, I don't know if I can fly."
Yeah, right.
And so that's why we wanted to get Kirk and all those other guys, because I mean, they're not getting any older, and we're not
the
getting any
clock
older.
is ticking, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when you say next year, and it's just kind of like I'm a realist that way. I know things change, and they can sometimes change rapidly.
Yeah.
So we like I said, like I think Shane said, every opportunity we've had, we've jumped on. Like with Larry Hammer, I said, hey, you know what? This stupid question. You want to do an interview for little podunk? He goes, yeah. And then he was busy signing. And then I came back later, and it's just like, you want to do that? No, not right now. So Sunday morning, I walk in there, and it was just like, hey, can I catch you after the show to do that interview? He goes, no. He goes, go ahead and set up right here. It's just, I set up at the signing table, and with grandsons are there, and he's signing stuff for the kids. He's having fun with the kids, and it was hilarious because we got talking about Saturday Night Live and guitars and stuff. Everything but G.I. Joe, because it's just like I want to talk to Larry Hama, not all of this stuff all the time. And it was just like this guy walks over and he just kind of starts talking, right? Larry Hama's just sitting here, and he looks over and he goes, hey, I'm doing an interview here.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. And then he goes right back to being, nice guy. It's like, well, boy, if that isn't New York, I don't know what is. But no, I mean, it was really cool, and everybody was cool. And, but the more guys we can talk to, the better, because we just sit here and have fun. Like I said, we try to do a format where everybody gets the same questions. Where are you at? What do you collect? What are you into? Because it's not necessarily G.I. Joe. You could probably talk to Fallon and find out that he doesn't like DC Comics figures that much, or whatever. He might collect 19th century fishing lures or something. Who knows? I mean, you want to.
That's how we found out about Ron Rudat, because we were trying to find anybody who worked on the Adventure Team, and we couldn't find anybody. Daryl DePriest has since found, he's since found some other people, but we just talking to Ron, he was like, yeah, I worked on the artwork for this, or I did the packaging for this. And so he worked on, it was the Adventure Team, it was a submarine, I think it's called the Seawolf. Yeah. And he did the comic art for the mini comic that you would get. And so my friend Steve Stovall, who does the Kentuckiana show, he had his vintage mini comic, and you could see it. And generally the rule of thumb is if you're doing artists for a business, you don't put your signature on there. But if you do, you try to hide it. So that one we found Rudat on the thing. And so Steve and I came up, and we're just like stupid fangirling in front of Ron, and we present it to him like, yeah. Yeah. So Rudat takes a look at it, and he goes, not my best work.
That's funny. Now he's Leatherneck, right? He was the model for Leatherneck, correct?
Yeah, the bushy beard and everything was Leatherneck was his character. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, he's the one who created the Cobra logo.
Yep.
And the coolest thing though was when we have a group it's not the 501st. What is the finest? We don't have the finest. Actually, they're there now. But we had a group that split off from the finest called the Fighting 7088, and they built a 1/1 scale Fang, which he designed.
Wow!
And so they took pictures of him sitting in that Fang, and he looked like a little kid sitting inside that Fang. So,
that is cool.
Yeah, I'll send whatever you guys. I mean, like I said, I don't mind. I think Kirk you probably have the most fun with, because Kirk is he'll talk your leg off, and Frank is nuts. Frank is. I mean, when you're talking to him, it's like you said, you're not talking to a. They're just like you and me, man. They're just laid back guys.
That's how most people are.
One of the guys that you've got there, if I'm not mistaken, one of the guys that you've got coming there in June was like the head of the Defiant crew that designed and produced the Defiant.
Dave Kunitz.
I'd really like to talk to him, because I want to know what his problem is, because my Defiant is still driving me nuts over there, because it's like I can break that from here and it's 18 feet away. I can look at that wrong and it will break right now. I can pick which part I want to break and break it from here without even going anywhere near it.
What's crazy is I sat in one of their meetings, and Greg Burnson was the one who created the flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there, and they were talking about when they were choosing the plastics, because I think that's part of one of the problems. I think with the Defiant, some of the plastic was super brittle, and they talked about that they were going to go with this one particular plastic for the landing deck, but they ended up going with this other plastic, and they went into detail about why they chose that plastic and which manufacturer they went through, and so that's why the landing deck is a totally different type of plastic than everything else.
Yeah,
and I'm sure if you confronted him, after he probably punches you for going, "What the hell, man?"
Of course, I would never do that.
But it's more the plastic, man. Come on.
I love the Defiant, but I would love to talk about it because I know, it's been advertised. It was the most expensive toy ever designed and to go into production. There's like $3 million to design and put it into production. And so many of them broke right out of the package on Christmas morning. I mean, that, it's just, and they are, John knows better than I do, of course, probably you do too, to come up with a good, and I mean a good example of a saleable Defiant is almost impossible, because if you sell it to somebody, the likelihood of them getting it to their automobile from the show floor without breaking it is zero.
We bought one. I didn't buy it. My friend Matt did. And I remember because we drove up to Dallas. And before we got there, we went to a dollar store and he bought like 7 pillows.
Yeah.
And then we moved it, and I'm talking, it was like we were moving the Ark of the Covenant. We were so careful.
Yeah.
And we put it in the back of his truck, not the back of his truck, the back of his car. And we put pillows all the way around it. And then we took tape and gingerly put tape around it. And I was just jacking with him, like, "Gee, man, what's going to happen if I drop it?" He goes, "I will kill you." I didn't have the Defiant, so I didn't understand at that time that it was that brittle of a piece. But I've since learned, like you said, you just look at it funny. It's like, it's just down. So
I was at a shop today, and they were like, we need your help with something. So what's that? Well, we got a General, and we have a Defiant that needs to be put together. And it's just like, okay, where is it? It's like, you got a complete Defiant. I think so. I get there, and got up to the other warehouse and got inside to where it was, and it's just like, I knew you were full of crap, because it's like, if it's not in the box, it's not complete. And even if it's in the box, it has a lot more pieces in it than it started out with, and you all know what I mean. Because it's just like, we watched that one guy, $20,000 for a mint in box Defiant. And what's he do? Somebody told him, open the bottom of the box first if you have to. And he did. And the gantry doors fell out of it in about 5,000 pieces. Yep. And he just dropped $20,000 on it. Yep. And those doors were shattered. And the other guys in the group were like, "We told you to keep it sealed. We told you not to even look." Yeah. And it's like, well.
It's what did they call it? Schrodinger's cat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
The cat could be dead. The cat could be alive, but you're never going to know until you open up that box.
Right. But the difference is with the Defiant, it's broken.
Maybe.
After 40 years, the cat's going to be dead.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a very quiet cat.
Yeah, right. No, I would love to talk to those guys because it's a real blast from the past.